Just a little conversation on margins. My students seem to be having this problem in class on a high school level, so I just want to talk about this, and it might be a little dumbed down, but there's a conversation about bleed that maybe we should have, it may be trim marks, but this is a social media document right now, and there's a very defined top, there's a very defined bottom, left and right side of the screen, and a lot of my students if they're given an idea to create, they try to cram in so much text, and we don't need to do that. We need to keep it simple. But when they're trying to make so much text, they're often like, well, I need to get this close to the top so I can fit everything in, and maybe this can go down at the bottom, and I need to get everything in the middle, a picture, or whatever I need to add. But it doesn't look professional. It just doesn't look right. And the reason behind that is because we need to consider a little bit of just space between the edge of the document and the text, a little margin. And so we're playing around with this, and I can use different spacing for this word up here. It's a really good size for the word flowers. It really fits in there well. So the spacing is a little bit tighter. I just want to make sure it's readable. Does it communicate the idea that I'm trying to convey? It just looks sloppy if I push it all the way over to the edge. So we want to allow for some margin. Even if I need to make this word bigger, that's fine. But I do want to allow for a little bit of space between the left edge and where the text begins. Same thing with the right edge and where the text begins, coming back. So just a little idea about margins, but I'm going to talk about one more thing. What about margins as far as images go? So since I'm working with flowers here, there's a flower right here, and it's a vertical image, which is what I was looking for. Oh, this one looks good too. And so I'm going to use this image and pop it in there. And what I'm seeing a lot of my students then, once I talk about margins, is, well, we're afraid to now go to the top and to the left. But sometimes that, like maybe putting your image where there's about the same amount of room here and the same amount of room there, that's not a bad deal. That's not a bad thing to put your image inside the margins. But you don't have to with an image. An image is a little bit of an exception to the rule. So I might want to take this image and make it longer so it's bigger. But a lot of my students also are making it bigger, which makes it look good, but then they're leaving this hanging at the bottom. And there's no room for text down here. It's too small of a space. It just looks sloppy. So I don't want to leave that margin here in this case. I want to, if this edge is touching the top, well, then I want this image to be touching the bottom as well. So that evens it out a little bit. So then I have like, it's a vertical picture. So what do I do with this space over here? Well, I might want to take this word and flip it on its side instead of having it across the top, and then do the same thing with the word collage. Then I'm using my space appropriately over here on the right too. Some images use the rule of threes or the rule of thirds, which means it's like most of this image is in 2/3 of the picture, and then there's a space. And that allows me to take this picture and I can make it bigger. And when I make it bigger, I can maybe make it fill up this whole screen and use it as a background image. You don't have to use it. I'm having a hard time making this bigger, but you can fill up an image with, if that's what you want to do. So there's no background anymore, and I can put some text over it. Because these pictures use the rule of thirds, it gives you room to make them a background image instead. I'm just worried about those people that leave a little bit hanging at the top, and then what do I do with that? There's no space for really anything to do, and it doesn't even match up anymore. The background color doesn't match up with the image. It just looks a little bit sloppy. So we're just trying to get in the habit of using our margins a little bit better.